Okay, so have you ever just gotten sucked into a mobile game? Like you just want to play for 10 minutes, right?
Yeah.
But then suddenly, like hours have gone by,
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
and you're like, wait, what just happened? Your shoulders are all stiff, you haven't eaten, and everything you were supposed to do is completely forgotten.
It's incredible how easily it happens.
It really is.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people, it goes beyond just casual gaming. It's addiction.
Right.
And that's exactly what we're diving into today. We're going to
Yeah.
unpack why mobile games can be so addictive, the sneaky strategies they use to keep us hooked, and what's going on in our brains when all this is happening.
Yeah.
But most importantly, we're going to give you some real, practical ways to break free and regain control.
Right. Because it can feel like you're fighting against something you don't fully understand.
Exactly. And we've done all the research, digging into all the different perspectives and analysis, so you don't have to. It's like a shortcut to understanding this whole complex thing.
Exactly. We're boiling it down to the most important insights without getting too bogged down in the weeds.
Right. So let's start with the basics.
Yeah.
Why are these games so darn addictive in the first place?
Well, a big part of it comes down to how these games make money, their business model. I mean, most of them are free to download, which seems like a great deal.
Right. Free. Who doesn't love free stuff?
Exactly. But here's the catch. Think about it. If the game is free, who is the customer?
Ooh, that's a good point.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're not actually paying for the game up front.
precisely. And this is where things get a bit sneaky. In many cases, the player themselves become the product, or at least the source of revenue.
Okay, I'm intrigued. So how does that work?
It's all about those in-app purchases, the microtransactions, and the loot boxes.
Right.
They're basically digital gambling. You're spending real money for a chance to get some cool item or character in the game.
Right.
But the odds are, well, they're not always in your favor.
It is kind of like gambling, isn't it?
It is. The excitement of potentially winning something big keeps you going, even if you've spent more than you've won. And then you have the whales. Those are the players who spend a ton of money on these games.
The big spenders, right?
Exactly. They're the ones who really fuel the whole free-to-play model. And the amounts they spend can be mind-blowing. There was this case where a teenager spent, get this, $16,000 in a single month on FIFA Mobile.
$16,000. That's more than some people make in a month.
I know, right? It really shows you the power of this business model. But it's not just about the money, it's also about the psychology. These games are designed to tap into our deepest desires and impulses.
Okay, so how do they do that?
Think about all those little rewards you get, the notifications, the level ups, the bright colors, those celebratory sounds.
I do love a good celebratory sound effect.
Me too. But it's all very deliberate. It's meant to trigger what are called dopamine loops in your brain.
Dopamine loops.
Yeah. Dopamine is a chemical in your brain that's associated with pleasure and reward. So when you get those little rewards, your brain releases dopamine and you feel good. And then your brain wants more of that good feeling, so you keep playing.
Uh-huh. So it's like a positive feedback loop.
Exactly. And mobile games are masters of this. They give you these rewards just often enough to keep you hooked, but not so often that you get bored.
So it's not just about winning. It's about the anticipation, the excitement of the possibility of winning.
Right. It's like that thrill you get from pulling the lever on a slot machine, right?
Yeah.
It's not just about the money you might win, it's the whole experience. And then there's this thing called the fear of missing out, or FOMO.
FOMO? Yeah.
It's everywhere these days, and mobile games definitely exploit it.
How so?
They use things like daily login bonuses and limited time events. They create this feeling that if you don't log in every day, you're going to miss out on something valuable.
That's so true.
Yeah.
I've definitely fallen for that before.
Yeah. Oh, me too. It's so effective. And then there's another psychological trick called the sunk cost fallacy.
I've heard of that.
Yeah.
It's like when you keep pouring money into a failing project because you've already invested so much.
Precisely. With games, it's like, I've spent so much time and maybe even money on this game. I can't just quit now.
Yeah, I've come this far.
Exactly. Even if you're not enjoying it anymore, you feel obligated to keep playing.
And on top of all of that, there's the social element of many of these games. The clans, the leaderboards, the competition with friends.
Oh, yeah. The social aspect is huge. It taps into our natural desire to connect with others, to achieve something, to be recognized.
It's like a whole other layer of addiction.
It really is.
Yeah.
So you've got this combination of a clever business model and some very sophisticated psychological manipulation. And it's no wonder so many people get hooked.
Right. But let's get even deeper. What's actually happening inside our brains when we're glued to these games?
Well, this is where it gets really interesting. Brain imaging studies, using things like MRI scans, have shown that playing these games activates the same areas of the brain that are involved in, well, in cocaine addiction.
Wow, really? That's serious.
It is. We see those same surges of dopamine that you get with addictive drugs, and those surges create cravings, and they make it really hard to control your impulses, just like gambling addiction.
So it's not just a harmless pastime. It's actually changing our brain chemistry.
Right. And just like with other addictions, people who try to quit gaming can experience actual withdrawal symptoms.
Like what?
Things like irritability, anxiety, problems concentrating. It can be really tough.
Wow. It really highlights how powerful this pull can be.
And it makes the whole debate about loot boxes and gotcha systems even more important.
Right, because are those just part of the game or are they actually a form of gambling?
It's a tricky question, and it's something that governments are grappling with right now. Some countries, like Belgium and the Netherlands, have already banned loot boxes. They see them as basically the same as gambling. You're spending money on a chance to get something, but you don't know what you're going to get.
Right, it's all about chance.
Yeah.
And that just one more pull mentality.
Exactly. It's like playing a slot machine. Keep thinking, this time, I'm going to win big.
So all this is pretty scary, but what does it actually look like in real life? Are there real people who are really struggling with this?
Oh, absolutely. We've heard stories of people losing their jobs, their relationships, everything because of mobile game addiction. There's this one guy who was playing 14 hours a day. He was neglecting his family, but he just couldn't stop.
14 hours a day. That's more than a full-time job.
It is. And sadly, it's not just adults. There are kids as young as 7 who are showing signs of addiction. They get really upset, even aggressive, when their phones are taken away.
7 years old? That's heartbreaking.
I know. And some kids are even stealing their parents' credit cards to buy in-game currency. Like this one 12-year-old who stole his mom's card to buy Robux.
Wow. It's pretty clear that this isn't just a harmless fad. This is a serious problem.
Yeah, some countries are starting to take it really seriously. Like China, they've implemented this gaming curfew for kids. They can only play online games for 3 hours a week.
3 hours a week. It's a pretty drastic measure.
It is, but it shows how concerned they are about the impact this is having on young people.
So this all sounds pretty dire, but if someone's listening to this and they're thinking, oh, this is me, what can they do?
That's the most important question. Thankfully, there are things you can do. One of the first steps is to just take a break, a digital detox.
What does that involve?
Basically, just step away from the games for a while, delete them off your phone, turn off the notifications, just give yourself some space to reset.
That makes sense. Out of sight, out of mind.
Exactly. And most phones have built-in features like app timers and parental controls. You can use those to set limits on how much time you can spend playing games.
Oh, yeah. I use those for my kids, but I never thought about using them for myself.
They can be really helpful for adults, too. It's like having an external accountability partner. And then one of the best things you can do is find other things to fill your time, things that you enjoy and that make you feel good.
Like hobbies, right.
Yeah, get back into an old hobby or find a new one, join a sports team, learn a new skill, anything that gets you engaged and excited about something other than games, and spend more time with people in real life.
Face-to-face time, definitely important.
It is. Those real-life connections are so much more fulfilling than anything you can get from a screen. And if you're really struggling, don't be afraid to reach out for professional help.
Yep.
There are therapists who specialize in gaming addiction, and they can teach you really helpful coping mechanisms. And there are also support groups like Game Quitters and Restart, where you can connect with other people who are going through the same thing.
So there's definitely hope.
Absolutely. It's not easy, but you're not alone, and it is possible to break free.
Exactly. And just admitting that you have a problem is a huge first step.
A huge step. It takes a lot of courage to do that.
So to everyone listening, if you're feeling like you might be spending too much time on mobile games, don't beat yourself up about it. Just try taking one small step towards change.
Even something as simple as setting a timer on your game or talking to a friend or family member about how you're feeling.
Those little steps can make a big difference.
They really care.
And on a bigger level, this whole issue really makes you think about the power of technology and how easily we can get hooked.
Absolutely. We're all surrounded by these persuasive technologies, these devices and apps that are designed to grab our attention and keep us engaged.
It's really important to be aware of that and to be mindful of how we're using our technology. We need to be in control, not the other way around.
Couldn't agree more. It's something we all need to keep thinking about.
It really is.